heart. Okay? So this is light that you perceive with your heart. And if these veils were to be removed, right, the hadith mentions, لَأَحْرَقَتْ سُبُحَاتُ وَجْهِهِ, right, that the radiance of the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would burn everything else that is in existence. You wouldn't be able to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Bear it.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to bear it. Okay? Right, so meaning that's right. So now again, like because we had our Aqeedah workshop yesterday, right? When we say the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, that is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reality of it is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a meaning that is befitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? But we do know that on the Day of Judgment, we will get to see Allah. Right? So I mean, that's what we have to look forward to. Right? It's like people get excited about Jannah for many reasons, and you should. There's a lot of beautiful stuff in Jannah, inshallah. Right? We look forward to all of those beautiful things. Right? But the greatest beauty that we're going to witness will be the face of Allah, right? Which we believe in.
Jazakallah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday you have explained the difference between the Ahad and Wahid. Can you repeat it again?
Of course. Yeah. So Al-Ahad, when we say Al-Ahad, we're saying that Allah is one in the sense that He has no partners. Okay? Wahid is that Allah is one in that no one shares His attributes. Right? The attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are unique to Him. Okay? That's the difference between Ahad and Wahid. Okay? So a lot of times Allah has names that are very similar. Right? So for example, you have Rahman, Rahim. What's the difference? Okay? Rahman is that mercy that is general and it encompasses everyone. Everyone that exists gets to breathe the air. Right? Yeah, Allah made water for everyone. There's food for everyone. Human beings mess it up by monopolizing the earth's natural resources. Right? That's a different issue. But Allah created it for everyone. Okay? Rahim is a specific type of mercy that only those that believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they experience. Right? Only those that believe in Allah, they experience that specific mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? That's Rahim. Okay? So that's the difference between Rahman and Rahim. So all of Allah's
So is the Rahman for all general and humanity and His creation.
Yeah. And Rahim is that special mercy that He has for the believers. Okay?
So the way I remember that is, it's a good question. The way I remember that, I used to have this confusion, Rahman and Rahim. So Him is one person. So it's specific. Rahman is generally the man to all. So Rahman is big and Him is specific. So the Him refers to the believers. That's how I remember. Placeholder for myself.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. أما بعد فقد قال جل وعلا في كتابه المجيد بعد أن نعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فاعلم أنه لا إله إلا الله واستغفر لذنبك وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات والله يعلم متقلبكم ومثواكم صدق الله العظيم. Let's all say Astaghfirullah. The ayah that we recited asks us to make istighfar, not just for ourselves, but for all the believers. Right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and all the believing men and the believing women. Okay. On the slide, the title, you have this fancy looking word, epistemology. Sometimes it might be hard to pronounce. Some of you may have heard it, some of you may not have heard it. Okay? I like to say it's a word that people try to use to make themselves sound smart. Okay? It's a very simple concept. Okay? Don't let big words, confuse you. Okay? It just means how do you know something. Okay? It's a discussion of how do you know something. Right? So now let's take a very simple example. Okay? I found that when we use examples, all of a sudden it becomes like real life and it's easy to relate to. Okay? So, Atif, can I use you for the example? Alright, okay. So, it's 1 a.m. in the night, okay? And alright, let's say this is morning time. Atif wakes up, and then his father, brother Fahim, correct? Yes, okay, I remember that name correctly. He's like, Atif, I saw you last night, you ate the last cookie from the cookie jar. Atif's like, no, I didn't eat it. Brother Fahim's like, I saw you with my own eyes, Atif. Right? And Atif's like, actually, Baba, you don't know. You thought I was in my room. I was actually at my friend's house. It's like, oh, what happened here? I'm 100% sure I wasn't here because I was somewhere else. Okay? It's like, okay, prove it. Can your friend testify to it? No, my friends aren't going to say anything because they don't want to get in trouble. Now, who's right? Brother Atif is saying he saw it with his own eyes. Atif is 100% sure. Is like, I know that I wasn't there, I didn't do it. How do we get to the truth? How do you know who's saying the truth? Is Atif justified in his position? He knows he wasn't there. Right. So if someone tries to convince you right now that, hey, you're not here, he says, you'll prove it. Right? It's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm right here. How am I supposed to prove it? I don't need any other further proof than the fact that I know that I'm here. Right? So, what are we getting at? Okay? Brother Atif has something that we would say, okay, he has evidence, right? Like, oh, I saw him. But then you can push that further. It's like, well, how do you know what you saw was correct? Right? It's like, I'm seeing Atif in front of me. How do I know, as absurd as it may sound, how do I know this is not a clone of Atif from yesterday? I don't know. Sorry?
It's your taqwa.
It's your taqwa?
It's your taqwa. You know it. You know you have no evidence, no proof. You believe it in here, so you know it to be so.
Okay. We're going to get to that. Right? So what that means is there may be things that we are justified to hold as belief, even though you don't have an evidence for it. Yes?
Well, because you look at which is more absurd. There's an absurdity in there being a clone in front of you instead of just Atif right there. So then you can use your deductive reasoning and say, okay, he's right there. It's the same one that was here yesterday.
Very good question. Very good observation. Okay? I absolutely agree with you. Right? But the question is there a rational possibility that this is a clone?
I mean, yeah.
There's a rational possibility, right? Okay? So just because there's a rational possibility, right, does that mean that now I don't have objective, absolute knowledge that this is Atif? Like, think about that. Do you actually have any doubt in your mind that this is the real Atif? You don't. Okay? Right? So we're going to touch upon some of these issues that we're discussing now. Okay? So I just wanted to explain, okay, when we talk about epistemology, right? How do we know something? This is a little bit of what we're talking about. Okay? Okay. So now we're going to look at Islamic epistemology. I would say perhaps it's even better to say sound epistemology. Okay? This is how human beings are naturally wired to think. Okay? Alright. Now, what's the importance? If you remember, I recited in the beginning of our session, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Okay? Now, let's look at what that means. Then, know that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah. So, isn't this a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah is commanding us to know something, right? Know that there's no one worthy of worship other than Allah. So now you understand why this is important, right? Because if Allah is telling us know something, then first that means we have to, you have to know how to know. Okay? Right? Now, the second thing that we can extract from this ayah is that objective knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a necessary is something that is necessary for believers. Okay? So this whole thing about, God might exist, He might not exist, I'm not sure. No, you can't do that. You have to know. Okay? It has to be certain. Okay? So that's part of the importance of what we're studying. Okay? So now, the beautiful thing about our deen that we've been mentioning is that everything that we require, our deen gives us. Okay? What are our sources of knowledge? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. I want you guys to take a look at the translation of this ayah and point out to me what are the sources of knowledge that this ayah is stating. How many are there?
What was the question?
Let's take a look at the translation of the ayah. And from the ayah, the verse, I want you to extract for me how many sources of knowledge is Allah listing here? 3. Okay. What are they?
Hearing, sight, and
Hearing, sight, and intellect. Okay? Is there a way that we could perhaps we could classify them condense them into 2 instead of 3? What can we generally, yes?
Perception and intellect.
Right? We can say hearing and sight are what? They are our 5 senses, right? Okay. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mention smell. So does that mean that we don't get knowledge through smell? If I smell biryani, I know there's biryani, okay? And that gives me certain knowledge. I know what biryani smells like. Okay? Right? Okay. So smell. Okay? So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions hearing and sight, what's He really saying? All of our senses. Okay, you feel something, you touch something. If you touch something hot, right? Don't be that weird person in the room that says, oh, maybe it's just me feeling it's hot, but it's not really hot. No, Akhi, that's burning you. It's hot. Okay? Right? No. Okay. So we have our senses, we have our intellect. Okay? What's really beautiful about this is that the Quran is telling us that we can objectively know something. Okay? And the reason I say that that's beautiful is that if you get to the bottom of modern Western philosophy and you want to summarize it into one word, it would be skepticism. Right? Meaning you have to be skeptic about everything. Skeptic about who you are, skeptic about your own existence, and skeptic about everything else that exists around you. Okay? And if you want a confirmation of what I'm saying, what you see in popular culture today, am I a man or am I a woman? Be skeptic about it, because you don't know. So whatever you feel. Okay? So there's no objective truth in modern Western philosophy. And we're going to get to how we got there. But the Quran from the very beginning tells us we have objective knowledge, right? Through our senses, right? And through our intellect. Okay? Let's look at this ayah. Is there another source of knowledge that's being identified in this verse? Revelation. Okay? So now how many sources of knowledge have we identified altogether?
3.
What are they?
Intellect, perception, and revelation.
Good. Okay. Hey, sisters, I can hear you guys. MashaAllah, haya, modesty is always good. For the purpose of the class, irfa'u sawtakum qalilan. Shall I raise your voice a little bit so I can, inshallah, hear? Yeah. Okay. Or maybe is there like a mic that we can give on that side, brother? Yeah. So inshallah, if we use the mic, then I'll be able to hear what the sisters are saying, inshallah. Okay. So now if we look at what we've just done, this is the chart that we get. Okay? This is the depth of Islamic scholarship. Islamic scholarship goes into our naqal, right? Our nusus, our primary sources, and then you codify it and you develop it. Okay? So we have ilm, right? And when we say knowledge, what we mean by knowledge is objective knowledge. Okay? Our objective knowledge, we achieve it through sensory perception, okay? Our intellect, and then over here I put something called true report. Okay? Are all reports true? Right. So for example, if you hear something on Fox, should you believe it or should you not believe it? You probably want to start off by saying this is not true, right? You're probably safer that way. Okay? Right? Not all reports are true. Okay? Not all reports are going to give you objective knowledge. Right? So like for example, okay, if when we take a snack break, okay, Brother Munzil of Islam tells Brother Umar, hey, you know we're gonna have a quiz after this? Brother Umar's like, get out of here. We ain't having no quiz. Right? You're the only one that's telling me that. Why should I believe you? Okay? And then after that, Atif comes and tells us like, we have a quiz. It's like, I don't know. And then Brother Ibn Nurayn tells him, we have a quiz. Now Brother Umar's sweating a little. I was like, oh man, I don't know. We might have a quiz now. And then Brother Rahman tells him, or Brother Jamal tells him, we have a quiz. It's like, oh man. Okay, we have a quiz now. There's 4 people. 4 people told me that. It's like too many people for it to not be true. Okay? So at a certain point, you've heard it from so many people that you don't doubt it anymore. Okay? Let me ask you guys a question. Did George Washington exist?
Yes.
Yes. Did you see him?
No.
Do you ever say hi to him?
No.
No. How do you know he exists?
Through history. He left his history.
How do you know they're not lying?
Oh,
So now question yourself, do you actually believe he existed or not? I'm 100% sure that this guy named George Washington, right, he existed. Why? Now think about it. It's not that you sat there in first grade when your social studies teacher told you George Washington existed. You're like, all right, I'm gonna start keeping a tally of how many times people told me about this person, George Washington. And when I reach 10 people, I'm gonna say, okay, now I believe in him. It's just not how it works, right? 1 second, Shah. Now, organically over time, you've heard it from so many people that you intuitively say, okay, this can't be something made up. I haven't been to China, but I'm convinced China exists. Why? So many people have said that it's there. Okay? Yes?
I mean, that's kind of the same way how like money works. For example, we all agree that $5 is $5, so that's how much value it has. Somebody could say it's worth 100, but if there's only one person saying that, then that doesn't matter. It's agreed upon.
Right. So meaning.
From a finance perspective, I can answer that question for you. Every dollar that comes out is backed up by gold or some other thing that the government supports it with. So they release, let's say, 100,000 worth of currency, then they have to have a balance of 100,000 worth or more in a central place like the IMF. Every country has to
I
do that.
see. Well, in that case, then there's some central body saying that, okay,
Yes.
this is worth this much.
Exactly. That's the monetary system of the world.
So that's what we call here tawatur, right? It's a very important concept. It's going to come up again today in our class. So I just wanted to explain what it means. Okay. The second type of true report is what we saw in the ayah. Okay. Revelation. Okay. Revelation. That's a very important question. We don't want to be circular in our reasoning. Okay. If someone comes and tells you, right, that like, why do you believe in God? And you say, well, because the Quran tells me. And why do you believe in the Quran? God told me to believe in it. It's like, come on. That's circular reasoning. Everyone can see through that. Right? So when you say that, okay, I believe in the Prophet, and I believe whatever he tells me, you have to have a reason for why you believe in him. What makes it a true report? Okay, why do we believe in revelation to begin with? You have to be able to rationally justify that. Okay? And that's the beauty of our deen. We don't just say, oh, blind faith. We have a rational justification, and we have a system of thought by which we can prove why we believe in revelation. Okay? And once we get to that, inshallah, we will discuss, okay, why do we believe in revelation? Okay?
Excuse me, brother. I
Of
just want
course.
to add to that. There's a book downstairs in the library that the brother talks about that everyone born that is put within them the belief in Allah. So you have it. It's not until your parents manipulate you and ruin you that's when it goes astray.
That's the fitrah, right? And that fitrah, we're going to talk about it in perhaps 2 or 3 slides. Inshallah, it's coming. Okay? Basic beliefs. As absurd as this question may sound, go ahead and someone answer it. Why do you believe in what you see?
Tangible proof.
What's the proof for it?
You can say
Okay, so,
almost touch it.
so like you see it, right? So like if Brother Abdul Janan is saying that, I see it, I believe what I'm seeing is true because I can touch it. But now I can just ask you, why do you believe in what you touch?
Because your
Because you
brain,
have used it before.
your brain confirm it and is certified that this is the thing that exists.
Yeah, okay.
The brain is actually, give you the signal, hey, this is the distance.
But that's exactly what we're questioning. How do you know that the signal that the brain is giving you is correct? How do you know it's conforming to reality?
Experience.
We will believe that that's our brain is functional.
As it is, so you just believe it, right? You see that? What you're saying is, I intuitively believe that what my brain is telling me is correct. Okay? I just want us to remember what we said here. Okay? Brother Salman said, I believe it because my brain's telling me that. Right? So you have an intuitive belief in that what reception I'm getting through my senses, I believe that to be accurate. Yes.
I think there has to be some sort of proof set in place at the very bottom, because otherwise you can just keep questioning down. Okay, why do you believe what you see? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe
Exactly.
that?
Right?
So
You
have
would
to,
just
like,
keep
set a
going.
truth.
You would keep going down. Right? It would never end. Okay? So if for each belief you ask that there has to be a proof, then what's gonna happen? You're never gonna have anything. Okay? So that's what we say, there has to be something that's called a basic belief. Okay? So a basic belief is a justified beliefs that do not need to be proven. Okay? I see something that is in front of me and I believe it. It's a justified belief, okay, that doesn't need to be proven. What justifies it is the normative human experience. It's the intuition that we all hold, like Brother Salman very intuitively put it, well, because I believe in what my brain tells me. Right? That's a justified belief. Not every justified belief needs a proof. Okay? Very important. Not every justified belief needs a proof. Okay? What are other examples of basic beliefs?
The air that we breathe.
Okay, so that's again going back to sense perception, right? We're perceiving something. Let's go something that's beyond perception.
The sun is light.
That's, I see the light. That's perception. Okay?
What the heart tells you,
Okay, what does the heart tell you?
that you experience something, which you cannot see, but
Something.
Okay, emotions, perhaps. Okay, so we're feeling, right? So if someone tells me, hey, you're not sad, I'm so, I'm sad, I know I'm sad, right? If someone tells me I'm happy, I say, no, I'm happy, I don't need, right? Okay.
Maybe our conscience.
Our conscience, very nice. Who said that? Oh yes, very nice, mashallah.
you are
Okay.
promoted to the first
Right, this is a very important question. Right? Let's start with something very basic. What was the brother's name?
Shafiq.
Shafiq. Okay. Right, he said your conscience. Okay. How do you know you're you? Right? If someone tries to convince me, hey, you're not Atiq, you're like, all right, what are you on? Right? What did you have? Right? What's wrong with you? Okay? No, why? Now someone tells me like, hey, prove to me that you're atheist. It's like, I'm not doing that. That I'm already justified in that belief. Okay? Right? So intuition, right? What are types of intuition that we have, right? We're gonna get into that. Your experience, right? Experience is a basic belief. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay? When there's a child, the child accidentally touches fire. Sometimes not accidentally. Parents tell their children repeated times, don't touch the fire. Obviously the child's gonna be a child and is gonna do what? It's gonna touch the fire, right? And then the child gets burnt. And then the child learns, hey, the next time that I'm gonna put my hand in the fire, what's gonna happen? Burn. What justifies that? Experience, right? You're just like, well, how do you know for sure that something won't change? There's an intuitive aspect in your mind that tells you that no, this is not going to change, it's going to stay regular. Right? That there's a pattern to how things in the world work. Right? Now, already from this, you can say, well, there's a pattern, someone put a pattern in place. Right? You can already see where we're kind of going with this. Right? So how does this work? You have this intuitive, every person that's born, right, has this part of the fitrah. The fitrah is very vast, right? It's not just our belief in God, but it's belief in how we experience the world around us. That we believe that, okay, if I've mixed, I forget, is it blue and green that makes purple?
Blue and red.
Blue and red. See, I knew I was wrong somewhere, right? I probably didn't experience it correctly. So, if I mix blue and red a few times and I get purple, I'm not going to keep saying that, well, I got to run this experiment again, make sure that it's going to make purple. I have experience of it now, right? But what justifies my belief in my experience is my intuitive understanding that yes, this is going to repeat, okay? Your memory, right? If I ask you, what did you have for, what did you have for dinner last night? Can you tell me that this is what I had for dinner? It's like, prove it. It's like, what do you want me to do? Regurgitate it? Like, I'm not gonna, okay? You can't prove that. Okay? What do you have to say? It's like, well, I remember this is what I have. Right? There are times when your memory will fail, right? That's because there may be a deficiency in the memory. But in general, right, if you have someone has a short-term memory problem, that's a sickness. But in general, something that happened a little while ago, your memory is reliable for that. It's a valid source of knowledge. And there's no proof for it, but it's justified. Okay, it's a basic belief. Alright? So now intuition is an important one here. Who can give me some examples of intuition?
Yusuf's father said he knew his son wasn't dead, so he was still alive. He had that condition.
Okay, so that Yusuf a.s.'s father knowing that he's not dead, right? He hasn't passed away. That is one usage of intuition that we have in the language of the our common language that we share amongst ourselves, right? I'm thinking about intuition in a more technical sense. Here, let's run a mind game, okay? Yes.
Oh, you can go ahead.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, for example, if you smell something rotten from food, you're probably not supposed to consume it. That's intuition.
Okay, that might be someone. So I can see someone arguing that it might be based on experience, right? Or you might have experienced it before, or if you've never experienced it, then yeah, I would say intuition. Okay. Okay. I want you guys to do one thing. Okay. Take a good look at this table here. Okay. You got a good look at the table. If I ask you to describe the table in a minute, you're going to be able to describe the table, everything that's on the table. We're good? Sisters can see the table. Yes? You can now close your eyes. No cheating, all right? Can now open your eyes. What's different?
Water.
The water bottle's not here. Okay. What happened?
You remove it from the table, so
It moved on its own.
Okay. Remove that on its own. Okay.
The water is missing.
No. So now, look, even as absurd as it was to say that the bottle moved on its own, right? Does everyone see what happened? All of you came up with an explanation of why it's not here. Did you notice that? Even if I didn't ask you that question, what happened? If the minute that you see that, okay, the bottle's not here, your mind automatically runs. It's like, hey, I need an explanation for this. Why is it not here? Okay? So intuitively we know that anything that occurs requires an explanation. Okay? Any change is going to require an explanation. Okay? Anything that happens requires an explanation. Any effect requires a cause. Okay? That's something that we know intuitively, right? Change requires an explanation. Okay? Agents versus objects. It's really interesting. Okay? They've run tests with children on testing their ability to distinguish between agents and objects. Okay? If you want to read more about it, there's this book that's called Born Believers. Right? Born Believers, I highly recommend reading it. It's a very interesting read. Okay? So, it's actually, we just did it, right? The reason that you all laughed when, what was your name again, brother? Sorry. Harun, okay. Right. Okay, put Shafiq, Brother Harun, okay. Okay. When Brother Harun mentioned the bottle moved on its own, why'd you all laugh?
It's not possible.
it's unbelievable. We did not believe that.
Yeah, why?
There's no life to it.
It's an object.
It's good, it's an object. It's an object, right? But when, Brother Salman said you moved it, no one laughed. Why? Because I'm an agent. Okay? I have will. I can do something. Okay? So now intuitively, right? Even children, they understand this. Right? It's games that we play with children all the time. Right? It's like child's not looking, you do something to pull their hair, for example. And they and you do something to them. And then they turn around and it's like, hey, why'd you do that? I didn't do it. It was that toy over there that did it. Right? What does the child say? Chacha, or uncle, stop messing around. I know that that's not true. Right? They have that intuition at the age of like 1, 2. Right? Why? That's just something that we intuitively understand the difference between agents versus objects. Okay? Now, all of this has theological implications. Right? For example, you put a seed in the ground and then a plant grows. Right? We don't recognize how materialistic we've become. Because when someone asks you like, hey, what caused this plant to grow? You're like, it was the water and the soil and the air and the sun. Because that's what was drilled into you in 3rd grade. Right? But now look at that. Air, object. Water, object. Dirt, object. Seed, object. Sun, object. So what are you saying? You're saying objects are what makes things happen? Where's the will? That's Allah. Right? So we've become so materialistic because of the educational system that we've been put through, because it's just been drilled to us, right? Repeatedly, over and over. This is what causes things to happen. This is what causes things to happen. They've mentioned the objects, they've removed the agent. Okay? So when I was speaking yesterday how there's a dichotomy in how our education system works, it's a materialistic educational system. They don't recognize there to be an agent, so they conveniently never mention an agent. Okay? Which is extremely harmful to the iman of our children. Right? That's why this is so important that, hey, look, let's explain these things. Objects don't do. That's something that you intuitively know. Right? Okay? Recognizing intelligence and design. Right? For example, if I take, if you see a beautiful painting, right? And then someone tries to convince you, it's like, yeah, over hundreds and thousands of years, the wind blew many times, and one time the wind blew and the cap opened a little bit, and then after another 100 years, the wind blew again, and then the bottle fell down, and then the wind came and it blew, and then, by the end of this, we have this beautiful picture of the Taj Mahal. Yeah. Good luck trying to convince me that happened, right? Does that sound absurd? Why does it sound absurd? Because you see this very intelligently designed painting, right? And it doesn't matter how many years you give it, whether you give it 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or 1,000,000,000 years. You're intuitively going to reject that. That no, because when I see design, I recognize design. Correct? Okay. But now, what's vehemently and aggressively pushed in our educational system? All of the design and the beauty that you see in the creation of Allah is a result of what? Just chance. Right? It's just random. It just happens. Okay? It's just random mutations in genes. It's like, but we never question it, because from the time that we look at the instructor, and the instructor is in a place of authority, and as human beings we intuitively respond to authority, and if it's repeated to us enough times, we come to believe it. We say, yeah, all of the variation and all the beauty that we see in creation is a result of random chance. Yes?
But when, for example, a seed is planted, do we reject that the soil had nothing to do with it, the water, any of the ingredients besides the plant growing, that is completely rejected in that case?
We're not rejecting it. We're not rejecting that it doesn't do anything.
So then why is the whatever evolution is completely rejected in that case?
Very good, right? What we're saying is that that when they say evolution is random and unguided, that's the part. So if a person says that, okay, let's take two parts of evolution here, okay? If you take the evolution of man from anything other than Adam alayhi salam, coming from Adam alayhi salam, put that aside. We're not discussing that right now. Okay, let's leave man to the side. Let's take all of other creation, right? If a person believes that, okay, there's a mechanism that happens through mutations that is not random but is caused by Allah and is guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of our Aqeedah, that's correct. See? Why? Because now we're not saying that it happened by itself. And we're not saying that it's unguided. We're saying that it's guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the product, this design that we see, can't be without a cause. Okay? Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay? Now, whether you actually believe in evolution at large or not, that's not a theological question. That's a question of your scientific persuasion. Right? If you feel that, I don't feel that the theory of evolution answers the questions or the gaps that I see, that's a scientific persuasion. It's not a theological persuasion. Theological is, can you believe it's unguided and uncaused? As a Muslim, you cannot, and according to sound epistemology, you cannot, because you're witnessing design, and when you witness design, you intuitively know that that has to be caused. It has to come from an agent. Okay? This is how we use our epistemology. Okay? So, now coming to the question of man, right? Can knowledge contradict itself?
No.
Can you have knowledge cannot contradict itself, right? It's objective knowledge. Okay? So if you remember over here, we went to here. So look, revelation is an objective source of knowledge, right? Science is going to fall either in sensory perception, right? Most of science is perceiving. We're perceiving things, okay? Or we're working backwards, Okay? This cannot contradict this. Right? It's impossible for them to contradict, because two opposite things cannot be true at the same time. That's something that we know intuitively. Okay? So when Wahy tells us that we don't come from anything else other than Adam alayhi salam, okay, then this cannot contradict that. Okay? Now over here you can have multiple options. You can say that all of the other creation, they went through the mechanism that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used of evolution, or you can say that Allah created them directly, whatever. For human beings, we will say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perhaps made an exception. Why are we saying that? Because we know from revelation that we come from Adam alayhi salam. Right? Because our knowledge cannot contradict itself. Okay? So this is like, I like to call this a case study of our Islamic epistemology at work. Right? What does our epistemology do for us? Okay? It helps you answer these type of questions. Okay? Okay. Recognition of self. Okay? This is what we talked about. Now, we recognize that yes, I exist. You might be very surprised, but a committed atheist and a committed materialist does not believe that the self exists. Right? Think about that for a second. For them, everything that exists is just matter. Right? There is no I, there's no conscience. There's no Atiq, there's no Atif, there's no Harun, there's no Salman, right? There's no Umar, there's no one. Right? Can you imagine what a bleak picture that is? Right? There's no one exists, right? There's no one has any conscience, no one has any will. Usually that's just like, we say dhulma, right? It's just darkness. SubhanAllah, we started talking about Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard. When you remove Allah from that picture, what you get is dhulma. You just get darkness. There's nothing. Because it's just all matter. It's just material. It has no life to it. You don't have any free will. Okay? That's the dominant materialist belief. Yes?
I mean, it's not as absurd as you make it out to be, I think, because if you remove Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there's nothing there. There's nothing left. It's just all out of chance, according to them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? So I'm saying it's absurd because they're going against your recognition of self, right? So even if a person doesn't believe in God per se, I'm saying it's absurd because you would have to convince yourself that I'm not real. Try convincing yourself that there's no such thing as Harun, or that when I'm doing something, it's not me that's doing it. It's just something that was programmed from before. Right? That's very you can't really come to terms with that, right? Because everyone intuitively knows that no, I exist. I have a personality. Right? Okay. Understanding of possible versus impossible, right? Things can't create themselves, right? Why? Because if it created itself, then it's there to create, right? So it can't exist and not exist. Okay, possible versus impossible. Okay. What we're doing now is we're expanding our chart. Okay? How did we expand our chart? We said that first we have our sense perception. But to believe in our sense perception, what did we have to establish first? Can I repeat the question one more time, right? To believe in our sense perception, what did we have to establish? Basic beliefs. Very good. Okay? Remember when I had asked, why do you believe in what you see? And then we had this discussion of, well, if you keep asking this question, it's never going to end. At some point we have to stop and say, well, there has to be some belief that's justified and it doesn't need any proof. Okay? So that was called basic belief. Okay? So for us to believe in our perception, it falls under this larger umbrella of basic beliefs. Okay? So under our basic beliefs, we added experience, intuition, sensory perception, right? There are more that we can add. I'm just giving these three as an example. Okay? Now, so we talked about, so far in our chart, we've covered this, right? We've covered this so far. Okay? Now we're going to show, so what we've done so far is we've proven that all of these objectively give us knowledge. Okay? And now we're going to our intellect to show how does the intellect give us objective knowledge. Okay? Reasoning is of two types. Okay? Induction and deduction. Okay? Let's use an example. Okay? Hypothetically, let's say that everyone in this room is wearing red. Okay? Would it be valid to say that since everyone in this room is wearing red, everyone outside of this room is also wearing red? Is that a valid form of reasoning?
Could be.
It could be, but would it give you can you know objectively that everyone outside is? No. Okay? Why? Because you're moving from an incomplete, right? It's called incomplete induction. Okay? We are the particulars, right? Just remove the hard words. Particulars, just individuals. Okay? Do we represent all of humanity? No. Okay? So this is like when they only knew that they had only seen white swans before, they'd never seen a black swan, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, swans can be black too. Okay? It's like, whoa, mind blown. Okay? Why? That was incomplete induction. They took a limited set, and you looked at a limited set and said, oh, hey, all swans are white. You had a limited set, and they said, all swans are white. That's an incomplete induction. It does not give you objective knowledge. Okay? If you can somehow get a complete induction, right? So for example, we say that, Abdul Jalal is wearing red. He's not, but just, hypothetically. And you can list every person's name in this room and say they're all wearing red. Okay? And then you say all the people in this room are wearing red. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct. Right? So now that's an example of complete induction, which would be true. Question now. Science. Is it complete induction or is it incomplete induction?
Incomplete.
It's incomplete induction.
There you go.
Okay? I want you guys to remember that. Okay? What happens is in school, right? In our educational system, things are pushed to us without anyone ever explaining the philosophy behind it. No one explained this to you before. I can guarantee no one had this discussion with you. Because I've been through the same education system as you. Right? And then when you take a step back and you're taught this, you're like, where was this? Why did no one ever talk to me about this? Okay? Deduction is you move from universals to particulars. Yes?
I mean, isn't that kind of obvious in science's case? Like, obviously you can't see every swan, so obviously when you're saying all swans are white, it's kind of it's kind of saying that all the swans we've seen are white, so all swans must be white. But that's, I don't know what I'm saying. Never mind.
Yes.
So, the incomplete deduction of the dunya is enough for you to go by. You don't care, right? But it leaves out, yes, it is not complete in the sense that it might have left out something beyond your ability to even perceive. That is what is the point here. Incomplete perception is good enough to get by. You may say, every swan is white. Okay, I'm okay with that. Maybe there is a black, I don't care. You're not even pushing your entire understanding to encompass everything. You're just going by it. You're saying, who cares? Okay. Then you say, this is white, I take it and I go forward.
Well, see, that's why things are called theories, because it's incomplete, and they know that it's incomplete. But it's stated as fact because it's seen with all the evidence we have right now. That's seen as fact. But there could be things that are discovered in the future that could influence the current theory.
Absolutely. So what the point that I'm trying to make is that what's happened is that we've become so kind of influenced or impressed by these theories, right, that we don't think of them as theories anymore, right? And what happened is that we've kind of we have this overconfidence in the scientific method to answer everything, and we take it as objective knowledge, and sometimes we kind of miss out on the fact that it's probable. Probable knowledge isn't a problem, right? You can use probable knowledge to create wonderful technology that helps our lives. You can use probable knowledge that makes us money, and we all love money, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? What I'm saying is, what happens is from a philosophical standpoint, we kind of lose sight sometimes that at the end of the day, it's probable, it's not objective. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
I don't know, I always kept that in the back of my mind, like no matter what science courses I took, is that, evolution and all that, sure, that may be proven true, but in the back of my mind, it's always like, obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is behind this somehow. Maybe I don't know exactly how.
You see, the word that you used has been proven true. You notice that?
Yeah.
It's been proven true. When you say it's been proven is something that you say for objective knowledge. Right? That's not the case. From an epistemological perspective, it hasn't.
That's the point.
Right? That's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Right? Because you're saying if you take theory of evolution, the way that is defined as an unguided, blind, random process, from the epistemology that we just studied, that's impossible. Okay? What probably happened, Harun, is that you formed your own definition of how evolution. You said, well, if this is the mechanism, it must be happening by the command of Allah. Allah is the one who's making it happen this way. Okay? That's usually what happens in the minds of Muslim students that are consciously, actively practicing Muslims. Right? You, Harun, do not represent the majority of Muslim students in public schools. You may not understand that. You may not know that reality. But many students are not as lucky as you are because they haven't had that upbringing or way of thinking.
I see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we go to deduction. Okay? Deduction is going to give you objective knowledge. Okay? Where you move from a universal truth to particulars. Okay? This is what happens in most arguments for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's existence. Okay? So for example, right, you start with something like anything that comes into existence requires a cause. Right? That's a universal truth. Does that statement need proof or evidence? No, it's intuitively known. We proved that with this, right? When I moved this, you all said, well, why did that happen? The fact that you asked why means that it requires an explanation, it requires a cause, right? That's a justified belief, that's a universal truth, okay? So in arguments for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's existence, the premises and the universals are often intuitive, okay? And inshallah, we're gonna go over some today. I am trying to keep an eye on the time, okay? So these are often intuitive, okay? And like I gave you the example, right? The most common one will be, right? Everything that comes into existence requires a cause, right? We see things coming into existence, they require a cause. Okay? The cause itself cannot be something that requires another cause, or else you'd never get to the end of it. Okay? Now, okay. All right. Reasoning and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is now we're gonna get to the fitrah that Brother Omar was speaking about. Okay? Does belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala require reasoning, or is it a basic belief? Okay? And a lot of people are going to say it's a basic belief. Okay?
For some.
For some, okay? I'll relate an interesting story. I'll say it in Urdu first because I had this conversation in Urdu, and then I'll translate it. So those that speak Urdu, they'll appreciate it, and then I'll try. I will. This is fairly easy to translate. I'll translate it. So एक बार मैं बाबा के साथ बात कर रहा था. Not my Baba, but my father-in-law. It's like Baba was like, तुम्हारा job क्या करते हो? It's like Baba मैं atheist के साथ बात करता हूँ. Right? It's like वो कौन होते? Baba वो खुदा को नहीं मानते. It's like पागल है क्या? आसमान ज़मीन को नहीं देखते? Right? Okay, so and then I'm like, Baba, आप बिल्कुल ठीक है, आप वैसे ही रहे. You just stay the way you are. So this is what the conversation was like. So my father-in-law, I was speaking to him, like, what's your, what did you specialize in? I'm like, I specialize in theology. He's like, what the heck is theology? And he's like, I'm like, okay, let's make this simple. I debate with atheists. And he's like, what's an atheist? He's like, I'm like, they don't believe in God. And he just gets like this really confused look on his face, and he's like, did they not see the heavens and the earth? Like, are they blind? And then I'm like, you just stay the way you are. You're perfectly fine. They're the ones that are messed up. You don't need to explain yourself. You're good. You just stay the way you are. Okay? So for some people, right, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just so basic that it's part of their nature. Right? It's not something that they ever question. And for people that way, that's perfectly good. Just stay that way. Because that is your normal fitrah. Okay? Now, this has been debated by the scholars. Okay? Those that say it requires reasoning have argued based on a few points. Right? They said, well, if the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was basic, everyone would accept it. But does everyone accept it? No. Okay? And then they say, well, the Quran provides arguments for it. Basic beliefs do not require arguments. Okay? So this is their reasoning for saying that, okay, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not something that is a basic belief, rather it is something that requires reasoning. Okay? Those that said it is daruri is just the word for basic, have argued by saying that when you say, okay, the Quran makes arguments for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all of these, the premises that we use, right? So for example, we said anything that comes into existence requires a cause. That's intuitive. It's a basic belief. Okay? So they're arguments in the linguistic sense, but in reality, they're very immediate and intuitional. Okay? What's the gist? Okay? The gist is, as long as you have a justified reason, right? And it's not that you just believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because someone else told you. Right? If you look at the world around you and you come to the conclusion that the world around me makes sense with Allah in the picture, that's all the reasoning that you need. Okay? Do you need to take a philosophy course that teaches you how to make a logical syllogism or a logical argument? No. Okay? Did the Prophet ﷺ ever tell the companions, hey, sit down, I'm going to tell you if A equals B and B equals C, then therefore A equals C? No. I'm pretty sure I've never read any hadith that ever said that. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ never did that. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ never sat them down and said, hey, I'm going to teach you this, this formal sense of an argument. But the Quran has these intuitively built into it. And we're going to see some of them today. Okay? You do not need to be able to express it. And the reason that I'm saying that is many times I've dealt with young Muslims that have that express to me in confidence that, hey, I no longer believe. Okay? This is a reality on the ground. Okay? So when I asked them, okay, well, talk to me. Right? You got to open the avenues of communication. It's like, oh, okay, talk to me. What's going on? It's like, well, there's a question that I can't answer. So if I can't answer it, then, I guess I don't believe anymore. I'm like, whoa, just stop right there. Who told you if you have a question, that means you don't believe anymore? The companions had questions. So who are you to say that, well, if I have a question, then, I don't like. And you know what that young man told me? He said, well, Sheikh, no one ever told me it's okay for me to have a question. And you know whose fault that is? It's not his fault. That's my fault. Right? I take the blame on that. Right? That's the elders in the community. That's on us. It's not on the young man. Because we didn't facilitate that knowledge to them. Yes?
There's a difference between I don't know and then you shouldn't answer questions or ask questions rather. Because like, for example, if somebody comes to me and asks a question that, I don't know the answer to, saying that, oh, you shouldn't ask questions is not a valid response to that, I don't think. You should just say, I don't know, Allahu Alam. Ask somebody else that maybe knows more than me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay?
Parents don't do that though.
Sorry?
A lot of
Parents don't do that.
Yes, that was going
They
to be my next point. Okay? The biggest mistake that parents make is that, imagine, right? And it doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from a place of fear, and it comes from a place of lack of education. Okay? If your child comes to you and says, well, Baba, Mama, I have a friend that doesn't believe in God. I think some of what he's saying is starting to make sense to me. Go read some Quran. Go do some astaghfirullah. Right?
I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not saying you do that.
I'm his dad. I never
Okay,
do that.
mashallah. I wasn't trying to make like specific eye contact with anyone.
No.
Right?
I know some parents doing that, but
Yeah.
It's actually a lack of education. So
Yeah, it is lack of education.
If you don't have that answer, you have to say, I will answer you later.
Exactly. Okay. So what mistakes parents make is they're like, you're not doing enough dhikr, you're not doing enough dua. At that point, that's not what the questioner needs. The questioner needs some, reasoning. You need to sit down and you need to talk with them. Okay? And you need to answer their question. You can't just sweep it under the carpet. Your reaction of sweeping under the carpet or getting upset at them is confirming their bias. You getting upset at them is actually telling them the reason they're getting upset is because they don't have an answer. And if they don't have an answer, that means what they believe in is wrong. And you know what's going to happen? Your child's not going to tell you that, I don't believe. You know what's going to happen? When they turn 18, they're going to leave the house, and then you're going to get a call. It's like, actually, I'm not Muslim anymore. Okay? I'm saying this because I've seen this. Okay? So the reason we hold these courses is to equip you, the parents, right? That this is how you approach these questions. Okay, yes?
To continue a little bit, it's the question, all question, anywhere should take in an answer.
Yeah.
So if the parent not give him the answer, they will take the answer from somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is the point. So
Yeah.
we try to give him the answer for the question they always ask.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm going to always do with the Kareem.
That's why Kareem is turning out nice, mashallah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. This next point, right? It does not require one to be able to answer objections and doubts directed at it. Okay? Meaning you may have an objection, you may have a doubt. Okay? An objection or a doubt requires an answer. You should go find the answer. But don't jump the gun. Okay? This is my advice to anyone that ever has a question or a doubt, right? Like, hey, today I heard something somewhere, and I get these type of questions all the time. Like, you just look at my phone, like half of my messages are like, hey, I heard this, someone told me about this, can you answer this? And it's just like, inshallah, I'm gonna get to it. Right? It's a long list. Okay? But the point is what? Just because you have this question, don't convince yourself, well, if I can't answer it, no one has the question, no one has the answer. Say, I'm gonna look for the answer, but I'm not losing my faith because I don't know the answer to one question. Okay? Alhamdulillah, most Muslims have this level. Okay? And that's enough. Okay? So I want to repeat, as long as when you look at the world and you say, this makes sense to me with Allah in the picture, that this is how I make sense of things. That is enough reasoning. Okay? More, better. That's fine. Right? But this is enough. Okay? It's enough for you to count as a believer. Okay? So what have we covered so far? We covered our basic beliefs. Right? We did under basic beliefs, what did we have? Sensory perception. Okay, what else did we have? Intuition. And experience. Okay, good. Okay. Now we said that our sources of knowledge, we had basic belief. In the middle we had intellect. Right? We finished that. Now what was the third one? Anyone remember? True report. Okay? Right, so we have three sources of knowledge, right? Basic belief, okay, intellect, and true report. Okay? Under true report we had, right, mass transmission, which is called tawatur, right? And then we had the revelation. Okay? So remember I said we have to prove revelation? This is what we're doing now. Okay? So we're first gonna talk about this types of possibility. Okay, look. I like to use this example. Okay, let's say that brother, what's your name?
Darwish.
Darwish. Yeah, mashallah. Okay. So brother Darwish, he leaves his house. Okay, and every time he leaves his house, do you have a china cabinet?
No.
No. Okay. Well, let's say the. Alhamdulillah, yeah. It's always what the men say, by the way.
Yeah, it's useless.
Yeah, on the other side, it may be different. We don't. They can hear us. Right? So, let's say the plates in the cabinet, right? They all turn gold, and then when he comes back, they turn back into glass plates. Is that possible or is it impossible?
Possible and impossible both.
It's impossible.
It's possible. But Darwish is convinced, he said it's possible. Okay?
Magic that it is possible.
Yes.
There are like two way in this life.
Uh-huh.
Everything, inshallah, yes. وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله.
Uh-huh.
So, but with our life and our analytical life, never happen.
Yeah.
The glass never turned to gold.
Okay. Good. So we had two types of possibility. Okay. When you talk about possible / impossible, there's two types. Okay. There's a rational possibility, right? What we mean by rational is, can materials change? Do materials change?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Materials change.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
From glasses to gold?
No, just the fact that materials change. Right? Just water.
Yeah.
So materials can change, right?
Yes.
Okay, things can right? They can change, right? We've never seen glass turn to gold. We may not have seen that. Right? I don't know. Can that be done? I don't know.
It's
Right?
possible.
It's possible, sure. Okay, you bring some chemist in here. I don't know. Okay, right? What I'm saying is from a purely rational perspective, right? Of can materials change? You say yes, that's possible. Okay, but from the normative experience that we have, right? Things like that don't happen. Okay, that's what you were saying, right? Like our normal experience of how we experience life, things don't happen. Okay, in our normative experience, a staff does not turn into a snake. Okay? Is it rationally possible?
No.
Yes.
Rationally possible, normatively impossible.
Yes.
Okay? Rationally possible, normatively impossible. Look, we all started from a drop that had no life in it. Right? Is that more miraculous? Is that any less miraculous than wood turning into a serpent? That's a miracle that we literally witness all the time, right? For some reason, because, now just think about it, because we observe it all the time, it loses its impact on us. Okay? But you think about it, it's like, hey, this is not alive. Right? How did this turn into a living, breathing baby? Right? What happens? Right? There's a period in the womb where you say, okay, this is blood. This is meat. This is bone. And at a point you say, there's a baby inside. It's like, whoa. Like, what happened? Well, Habibi, that's the ruh. Right? Allah put the ruh in there. Right? So it's no less miraculous. Right? It's rationally possible. So when we talk about miracles, miracles are rationally possible, but normatively impossible. Okay? Why are we saying that? Because we're trying to show that it can occur.
Yes.
Okay? That's what we're trying to show. We're showing that rationally a miracle can occur. Okay? Now we're going to show why does a miracle prove that this is a true messenger. Okay? Because remember, what's our big picture? Our big picture is, why should we believe in revelation? Right? The Prophet ﷺ tells you that Jahannam exists and that Jannah exists. Why do you believe him? That's the $100 question, right? It's $1 million question. Why do you believe him?
In huwa illa yuha.
Okay, so that's wahi, right?
Yes.
So the revelation is, why do you believe in revelation?
It is, you have to believe
So
in everything.
that's the answer you don't want to give your child. Because if your child comes to you and says, hey, look, why do we believe in revelation? And say, in huwa illa wahyu yuha. He's going to like, Abi, you're just giving me more revelation. Okay? Right? This is like, so you have to prove to him why that's exactly why we're having this. Right? Well, you have to prove to him first, why should you believe in revelation? Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ himself told us that every messenger was given a miracle. Okay? A miracle is what proves a messenger to be true. But now we question, why does a miracle prove a messenger to be true? Now we can take this very simple example here. Okay? You guys remember that mental experiment we did with Brother Umar on the quiz? Right? Is there a quiz, Brother Umar? No. That was a little hesitant. Okay? Well, let's run that game again. Okay? Brother Umar, he's, let's say that everyone is out for snacks. Okay? I know we're waiting for snacks, but we'll get there soon, inshallah. Okay? I'm not going to hold you for too long. Okay? Let's say that everyone's going for snacks. Okay? And then I send Kareem. I tell Kareem, go tell everyone that, Brother Atiq said we're going to have a quiz. Right? Brother Kareem, he goes and tells everyone that everyone's enjoying their snacks, like, hey, we're going to have a quiz. Right? Cohesively, everyone's like, man, get out of here. Prove that you're actually the messenger of Brother Atiq. He actually told you that. Okay? So me and Kareem, we kind of already, because we're cool like that, So we had this conversation. I said, look, Kareem, when they don't believe in you, tell them that Brother Atiq is going to stand up 3 times. With his right hand, he's going to tap his head 2 times, and with his left hand, he's going to scratch his stomach 4 times. Okay? And then, Brother Kareem's like, well, you want to see a sign? Okay, look at Brother Atir. I stand up, sit down 3 times with my right hand, I tap my head 2 times, with my left hand I scratch my stomach 4 times. Boom. Do you believe in him now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. No question. Why do you believe in him now?
Sign proof.
There's proof, right? Why? Because was what I did, was that normal behavior for me? That's not normal, right? Is it rationally I want you to ask you guys this question. Is it rationally possible that this was just a coincidence? I just felt like stretching, so I got up, I sat down, stood up, and sat down 3 times. I wanted to just, like, you know what, I had my hand up, might as well just go like this. And had to scratch an itch. Is it rationally possible?
Yes.
It's rationally possible, right? But was it normatively? That's not my normative practice, right? It's normatively impossible. Okay? So once you see that sign, it doesn't matter that it's rationally possible because you're so convinced that it gives you objective knowledge that no, there's no way that this is a lie. Okay? That's the epistemology. That's how miracles work. Okay? That's why every messenger was sent with a sign. Okay? That if you're actually a messenger from God, let us see something that breaks the pattern that we see around us. Serpents don't turn, wood doesn't turn into serpents. Right? The sea doesn't naturally just split in half. A person that cannot read, cannot write, has never been known for doing poetry, has never been known to be someone that gives sermons, cannot all of a sudden one day come out with such eloquent speech that all of the poets of the Arabian society together cannot match a line of what he has to say. That's a miracle. Right? That's why when the Prophet ﷺ tells you, hey, there's Jannah and Jahannam, now you say, this is wahyun yuha. Right? This is revelation. This is why I believe in him. Yes?
But what about us today? How do we believe those miracles that happened in the past?
Good job. Very good. Hold on a little bit. We're almost there. Right? Okay? There is a rational possibility of it being a coincidence, but the probability is so low, we intuitively reject that rational possibility. Okay? Just give you an example here. Right? Just to show that how sometimes people are so stubborn and so committed to what they believe in. Right? One of my teachers, he said that, I think either when he was studying in Oxford or somewhere, right? Yes, my teachers were like super smart. Right? He said, I had this conversation with this atheist. Right? So my teacher is Turkish. Right? Turkish people have beautiful personalities. Right? MashaAllah. Yeah. You guys, any of you have like Turkish friends?
We do have Turkish people.
So do you have any Turkish people in the crowd?
That's not.
Sorry?
No, I guess not.
No, I guess not. Okay. Right. So he just had this like very like upfront way of like talking to people. Right? And I love that. Right? So like I told my friend, imagine you were there at the time of Musa alayhi salam and the sea splits in half as soon as he strikes the staff on the ground. Right? What would you say then?
Walk away the ball.
So that's what you and I would say. Right?
This is
Yes.
the way.
When you see something happen, you want an explanation for it. So the only explanation, because it's not normative, you see it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So that's what you and I would say, right? You know what the atheist responded to him? He said, I would say that's an astonishing coincidence. It's an astonishing coincidence. Okay? Right? That's a committed atheist there, my friend.
That's what happened at the time of Musa alayhi salam.
Yeah.
They ask you, Arina Allah jahra.
Yeah.
And they not believe even.
Yeah, exactly.
أنزل علينا مائدة من السماء.
Yeah.
They not believe even.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
non-believer is,
Yeah.
you give him a lot of miracles and they will stay non-believer.
Exactly. Right? So the person said astonishing coincidence. Let me get to you in 1 second, inshallah. Right? So what I wanted to show is over here. Why did he say that? Because he didn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to begin with. Right? So people that believe in messengers, miracles only work when you've first rationally proven that Allah exists. You understand that? Right? When you've rationally proven that Allah exists, that it needs a cause, right? Now you can say like, well, okay, the only cause that can do this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you've flat out rejected that there's even a possibility of a God, then you have nothing left to say but what? It's a coincidence. Okay, yes, go ahead.
So there, how do I word this? There's like scientists that say that there's, really small possibility of if you take your hand and you can just stick it through if all the atoms align or whatever.
Yeah.
But effectively, the probability of that is so low that even if there was like a trillion years went by, that probably wouldn't happen. So effectively, it's impossible.
That's what we're saying, it's normatively impossible.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the atheist saying? The atheist saying is this is that one of a trillionth time. Right? That's what he's saying. Right? Okay. Now to answer Harun's question. Well, we didn't observe those miracles. Right? Do we all believe that Musa a.s. when he struck the staff, he split? We all believe that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see it?
Nope.
So then how do you believe in it?
Revelation.
Okay, we believe in revelation. Okay. Now imagine that if you didn't have the revelation, right? Or even if you take revelation, right? Or if you take our revelation, our knowing of the Quran, right? We all believe in the Quran, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. How do you know that the Quran that's being recited to you is actually what the Prophet ﷺ was reciting? Aha, yes, good.
Who? What do you say?
Tawatur. Tawatur was what we mentioned as mass transmission. Okay? That's a very important question. That's basically what Harun was asking. That okay, there's all these miracles. These are miracles that happened in the past. You and I weren't there when the Prophet ﷺ was reciting the Quran to the people. Yes?
But you can't say that, like for example, you said, why should we believe Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he says something? Like he says that you should believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you said that's based on the miracle.
Mm-hmm.
But if those miracles are then based on the revelation, like we learn about them through revelation, then it's circular reasoning.
So that's what I'm saying. We believe on those miracles through mass transmission, right? Not through the revelation itself, right? So you can say that okay, the miracles of other prophets are in the revelation of the Prophet ﷺ. We believe in the revelation of the Prophet ﷺ because he performed a miracle, and we believe in the miracle of the Prophet ﷺ because it reached us through mass transmission. Does that make sense? Okay? So that's what we're saying. That the miracle of the Prophet ﷺ, not just the Quran, the many miracles that the Prophet ﷺ performed, they reach us through mass transmission. It has been narrated by so many people in every generation that it's impossible for them all to come together to lie. Okay? So is there a rational possibility, right, that thousands of people got together and they said, let's make up this Quran? Is there a rational possibility? There's a rational possibility. Normatively impossible. Okay, that's what we're saying. Rationally, you can say there's a very low percentage of a chance. Right? Absolutely low percentage. That rational possibility is there. But we reject that. We don't consider that. Because intuitively we know that normatively that's impossible. Okay? Okay. Snacks and break, and you'll find out if there's a quiz or not. Enjoy your snacks, inshallah. Enjoy some time off.
Alhamdulillah. Takbir, mashallah. Takbir, beautiful. We're going to pass it, inshallah.
I'm enjoying with you more than any snacks.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
That's what we're coming for. We need to even speak about الإعجاز العلمي في القرآن.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. That's
So, the Quran is not